Another question, COVID-19 pandemic turned eyes on the resilience of the supply chain. How can you address how they should adapt to avoid disruptions in the future?
Thank you, Dr. Benton. As I said in previous answers, we learned what the resilience is in supply chains during this pandemic. But as the world struggles with a humanitarian and economic crisis that was rare before, it happened, but rare. Suddenly, supply chains found themselves under spot of the public eye and still experiencing unique challenges of their own. In this process, everyone has learned more or less what the concept of the supply chain, which they have not been aware of until today. Many journalists and politicians as well learned and still talking about with the terms of logistics, supply chain, that's all. And however, your question needs more than awareness of the politicians and the ordinary people. Let's remember the issue, the crisis, how it occurred. Regarding the supplies, the first shock was the supply shortage of the goods, which are originated from main production regions, particularly offshore regions. So we learned the importance of affordable safety stocks. Contrary to our lectures, which is idealizing the zero inventory. And also we learned the diversification of the supply sources. Those were very important. The second shock was the demand shock, of course, which was not a surprise. However, it was a two-sided problem during the crisis. Initially, the demand for various goods lifted up like a rocket, but this is seen as a temporary situation because we've started to shift our lives living in a minimal way. Of course, some of us succeeded, some not. However, this situation is causing to decrease still steadily. Returning to the question, after this determination, the first thing they need to adapt to supply chains, I mean the particularly international supply chain managers, should be a rational but a strategic decision on the trade-off between inventory and information technology. By implementing the information systems, temporary systems, we can reduce the inventory cost while providing a smooth flow of goods and at the same time concurrently preventing the negative effects of demand fluctuations. Secondly, the brands, particularly those national brands and their supply chains, should learn to act collaboratively while competing with each other in order to reduce the cost while increasing their market availability and responsiveness. This also brings an important criticism to logistics industry itself. Why? Because we have to learn to cooperate by sharing shipments through some destinations, like airways do, in order to reduce the cost while increasing our responsiveness. Of course, there are lots of issues to be coped with and actions to be done to use our time efficiently. I want to say one last thing. supply chains should use lesser suppliers and work with closer ones. But those should be, of course, qualified and trustable. If you can't find such supplier, you have to develop for yourself. This issue emphasizes smooth shift from a globally supply chain strategies from offshoring to nearshoring. And I hope this shift, this strategy shift, will bring wealth to our economies. I mean, Poland and Turkey. Okay, this is all my conclusion about your question.